Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
You ready?
Showtime.
On May 3rd, summer starts with The Fall Guy.
Let's do it later.
Let's drink a spicy margarita.
Make some bad decisions.
Yes!
Audiences are falling in love with the most entertaining film of the year.
Fall Guy.
Fall Guy?
Fall guy.
That's what the poster said.
See Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in the movie critics say exists to make you happy.
Trying to make it out?
Nope.
Because I don't either. It's not what I'm into right now.
What are you into?
Talking.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy. Only in theaters May 3rd. Rated PG-13.
Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to the Blazers Edge podcast, part of the Almighty Baller Radio Network. I'm Tara Bowen-Biggs. He is Dan Meringue, and we are ready to talk basketball after a week off. Dan and I have kind of a big, important confession to make. Over the last, okay, it's kind of hard, but you're going to help me out here. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been having an affair with the Olympics.
Oh, jeez.
I know. I mean, what was I supposed to do? The NBA wasn't there.
And it's over.
And the Olympics were there with their human interest stories, their interesting storylines, their fascinating rules.
And
you know,
curling.
I was gonna watch a game of curling, and that was gonna be cool, and it was gonna be fun, and then it was gonna be over. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll watch some speed skating, and that was fun. And then suddenly, before I knew it, I was like so immersed, and I like had completely forgotten about the NBA. And I was just doing all these crazy things, like staying up all night watching cross-country skiing. And as you know, I went down to Utah. And you might remember that the Winter Olympics were in Park City in 2002. So I went to the Winter Olympic Park, and I got the tour of where they did all the training for the ski jumping and the luge. They're called the sliding sports. That's, you know, for people who are not as into the Olympics as I am. I saw the bobsled track and where they do the skeleton. And I was up at the top of the K120. So the K120 is the 120-meter ski jump. And I went all the way up to the top of it. And I stepped out to the edge, and I was looking down 120 meters to the bottom
And you said, nah.
And I was like, I need to just take a step back. And I was like, I looked at this tour guide, and she was amazing, and she was telling us all these great stories. And I was like, I love her. She and I could do a podcast. It would be amazing. It would be all about the Winter Olympics. And then I was just like, no, I have got to get a hold of myself. The NBA has always been there for me. They've never disappointed me. Yeah, sometimes they take a little time off in the middle of the season, and then there's a couple weeks in September where they go off and they do their own thing. But by and large, the NBA always delivers for me. So I was really lucky that I was able to, after having this big epiphany and like freaking out over the fact that I had almost like, you know, dumped the NBA for the Winter Olympics, I got to go to the game in Utah and watch the Trailblazers end the Utah winning streak. And it was glorious.
I don't know. I mean, sure, fun, exciting, adventurous, but I gotta be on brand here. You still went to Utah in the winter.
No, it was just I was just caught up in the moment, and I needed to get back to my roots, and I needed to go, and I needed to see the guys from Oregon, and I needed
Were
to
your
sit
roots
around
covered
a bunch
in
of
snow?
Yeah, it was a little snowy, but it was also snowy in Portland. So it wasn't like I was that out of my element. I was like snow on the TV day and night, snow in Portland, snow in Utah. I was like fully immersed. I mean, what was I supposed to do? There wasn't any snow in Los Angeles where the NBA All-Star weekend was taking place. They were off in like sunny LA. So like, what was I supposed to do? I was left there all by myself. I had to make do.
Yeah, you know, I do enjoy the Winter Olympics. I was probably less into these Winter Olympics than really any I think I've been around for in my adult life. There was nobody like a really, really piqued my interest. There was no like Shaun White wasn't like coming onto the scene, and snowboarding wasn't making its debut, which is something I love, or Apollo Anton Ono out there, just the driving force behind it. Like the face of the Winter Olympics this year was kind of like it went from like a bunch of different people, and there wasn't like one really really strong story that like seemed to carry like the overarching tone of the Olympics, at least from the USA perspective, at least for me.
Well,
there were some cool stories.
Watched the women's relay cross country finish, which was just the most amazing thing.
That was cool.
But here's why I've been enjoying watching the Olympics and what the NBA wasn't giving me over All-Star break. The thing about the Olympics is people are there to compete, and All-Star break, those activities are all an exhibition, and I was ready to get back to competitive basketball, which I thought you would be proud of me.
Yeah,
about.
I was going to say, I thought we were just all here to have fun, Tara.
We are here to have fun, but I gained a new appreciation, I think, of the extra effort,
the competitive
that goes
spirit
into more than just like demonstrating something and showing how great like the All-Star activities are all about like showing how great and corroborating what we've all been saying about so and so is an all-star, and they go out and they they do their demonstration or whatever, their exhibition, but at the Olympics they were like actually competing right there, and so it was really great to get back to that and to go to into enemy territory, and just what a satisfying victory. The guy behind us was not really very excited to have people from Portland sitting in front of him, but I think we did a pretty good job of behaving ourselves, especially since we totally could have gloated. I bet in that situation you probably would have been a little bit more vocal than I was. You
know what though? I honestly, at away arenas, I typically make friends with the home team's fans. I'm pretty objective. You've sat down and watched games with me before. I'm a big proponent of when the Blazers get away with something, yelling very loudly, "Wow, they got away with that!" It's one of those things where I've actually, in my past year in Portland, I've had some visiting fans. I particularly had one guy who came to every Dallas game for like 4 or 5 years, who we went back and forth every single game, but in like the most fun possible way. I think those interactions are actually something that I've really enjoyed being a Blazers fan over the last few years. And Jazz fans, for the most part, from at least from my interaction, have been pretty cool. But I have to ask you, though,
they were extremely friendly.
What did you think of the Jazz jersey court combination in person?
So I really, really like the jerseys. I like the shirts especially. I'm not really wild about the shorts. I don't like I don't really like the segue from the shirts into the shorts. But the floor is really cool because it's got the arch on it, which is really beautiful, and it's beautifully blended with the jerseys. I don't really understand them. There's a lot of people who really don't like the jerseys, and I don't really understand that because I think they're really pretty. Like I said, not really wild about the shorts, but I thought they looked great. And it was a nice arena. It was a big arena. It was like super clean. There was lots of room to run, to move around and stuff. It was really nice. And you know what? So when we first got there, we were standing out in front, like trying to take our own picture. And this really tall, super well-dressed, very handsome guy comes up to us. And he's like, obviously like a broadcaster or something. And he says, "Would you like me to take your picture?" And I was like, "I would love that. And I know that I should know who you are, but we're from out of town. Can you tell? I bet you work for the team. Can you tell me who you are?" And it was Thurl Bailey. And so that was super exciting. And he was like, "Yeah, I know you guys from Portland. Jerome Kersey was one of my really good friends." He's like, "I've been up there to see him a bunch. And Duckworth was one of my really good friends." And he was so nice. And he spent all this time like taking our picture and getting it just right. And then I was like, "Well, you should get in the picture with us." And he got a call in the middle of it. And it was clearly somebody saying like, "Hey, where are you? When are you going to be there?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm out here talking to some Portland fans, taking their picture. We're getting our picture taken now."
I do what I want.
It was really funny. So he was really great. He was like a show host, kind of like the Jordan Kent, Michael Holton show. He had that role. So that was kind of a highlight. That was really fun.
The tall individual role.
But let's talk about the game. What do you think the Blazers and Blazer fans can take away from the Blazers beating the Utah Jazz and ending their winning streak?
I think this is something we touched on, heading or coming out of the break was we knew we were going to play the Jazz. So Portland has a big win against Utah, and you can say, oh, they can springboard that into the break, and Utah's won 11 straight. Oh, they're going to carry that momentum in the break. The only thing those two teams carried into that game was a massive 10-day hangover. They both looked absolutely awful coming out of the gates. Neither team wanted to play offense. Neither team wanted to play defense. And there were opportunities abounded for anybody that wanted to take advantage of them. And the most surprising character, maybe of them all, to take advantage of that was Maurice Harkless. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was absolutely electric. And his box score isn't going to just blow you away, other than the steals, perhaps.
With 6 steals, yeah. I think that's pretty impressive. That would blow me away.
5 in the first half, yeah. I mean, which was fantastic. But even if you just take the number away, his raw energy and his contribution, just being a complete pain in the neck in the passing lanes, hounding the ball handlers, running the floor, he was doing things that you expect Mo Harkless to do, and part of me was sitting there like it was just like the stark contrast of what you expect him to do. Like, that shouldn't have been such a sharp contrast from what you expect, right? The box score contribution is nice, and that's an added bonus, but you expect Maurice Harkless to be the energy guy, to make the hustle play, to run the floor, because that's what Maurice Harkless does. And I was thankful that was there, but I was frustrated that I hadn't seen it for basically 50 games.
Because you can't enjoy nice things. You have to just, be miserable about them.
I'm like,
so
man, Harkless
you liked
is
what
doing
he did.
something.
You just don't like that he hadn't done it earlier.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because, I mean, if Harkless has been that guy all season, we aren't sitting here talking about these lineup issues or, juggling things back and forth. And, I mean, he's very dynamic when he's doing those things. So do you think him back in the starting lineup has been the change, the catalyst for? It's a big part of it. We've definitely seen him more active. But I mean, the biggest part of this is, and I can't overstate this enough, is that Damian Lillard is playing like the best player in Portland Trail Blazer basketball history. His last 5 games have been something that I haven't seen from anyone in this franchise, literally ever. I mean,
out of this world.
He's scored more points in the past 5 games than any Trailblazer ever. And he's done so with the only game that he's quote-unquote struggled in is the Utah game, where everyone looked like crap. Like, nobody...
He ended up with...
24.
Did he have less than 20?
He had
24.
24. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, his bad game was 24. So, I mean, it's... The dude has just been absolutely... I mean, I put this up on Twitter last night, and it went kind of wild, but... Last 5 games for Damian Lillard: 50, 39, 44, 24, and 40. That's just nuts. I mean, if you look at him over the last 5 games...
More than any NBA player this year.
Yeah, more points than scored than in a 5-game stretch than any player this year, more than a 5-game stretch than in the entire 48-year history of the Portland Trail Blazers. And just to put this in perspective... It's not just the total points that he scored. It's how he's gone about doing it. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 39.4 points, 4.6 assists, 4.2 rebounds, 1.4 steals. So the box score stats are nuts, but he's doing it on over 51% from the field, 38% from 3, 93% from the free throw line. He's getting 12 free throws a game. 12. The only guy doing more is Harden.
Leading.
Harden is legitimately at 12.0. Damian's at 11.6. I mean,
So I know you're really excited about Damian, and I want to talk about him more, but what I want to kind of explore is whether or not is Damian doing this because there's no other options and he has to do this, or is he doing it because partly for that reason, but also because there are some things that the rest of the team has figured out to put him in a position, and that's just become a thing, is that Damian's just going to have to be our leading scorer. So I guess the difference would be is he just doing Westbrook and doing everything that he possibly can, and just if he has to put passing it out to somebody, or is he still also doing this in the context of trying to make everybody better as well? And are they stepping up to do that?
As I want to do, the answer here is yes. It's both.
Okay.
So Damian has said he's going to make a conscious effort to not be passive and not let the game come to him. He's going to dictate games. And this is what that looks like. He's doing everything. The free throws are huge. Getting downhill and getting to the free throw line at this rate is, if he's a 10-plus free throw a game guy, he's a top 10 player in the NBA because of the pressure that puts on opposing defenses. His assist totals have gone down, but he's shooting so well. If he shot 49% on the season and took the shots that he's taking now, he would be, a top 10 player in the league. And he's ticking all these boxes right now. When he said the other day that he considers himself to be, I think I'm one of the top point guards in the league, and Dwayne Wade said, hey, take that "I think" off there, you're a bad dude. Yes, Damian Lillard is not as good as Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in NBA history. Yes, he's not as good as Kevin Durant, arguably the most...
Not as good at shooting, or just completely? What do you mean?
What, as Steph Curry? Steph Curry's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's
right. Okay.
Dame's not on that level. That's fine though. Steph Curry is legitimately the greatest shooter in NBA history right now. I don't think anybody's going to debate that. And what he can do with the ball and setting up his teammates and the guys he has around him it's otherworldly. You get a guy like Kevin Durant, who is the most dynamic 7-footer as far as scoring is concerned. You've got LeBron James, the best or second or third best player in NBA history. And so when people say, oh, he's not up there with the best in the league right now, well, no crap. So he's not up there.
We've got some historically good players.
You've got some guys,
right,
Steph, LeBron, and KD, when it's all said and done, all three of them will probably finish as top 15 players in NBA history. And two of these guys are on the same damn team.
Yeah.
But I had somebody the other day to say that tell me that Klay Thompson was in the same breath as Damian Lillard. No, he's not. Not even close. Klay Thompson's a damn good shooter. That's what Klay Thompson is.
What arena you're talking about?
It
depends on what arena you're talking about. Are you talking about Damian just as straight up a player, or
I'm talking about as a player.
Separate that out from him as everything, all the other intangibles that he brings to the game?
Klay Thompson is a great player. I'm not taking shots at Klay Thompson by any shape, manner, or form, but he is not on Damian Lillard's level. Damian Lillard and what he has shown, not just with his scoring ability, but how he dictates the pace of the game. Like what we saw the other night against Phoenix, and we'll get to the Phoenix game. That's the kind of thing that very, very, very few players in NBA history can just do. Can just take over a game. And let's not act like that's the first time that we've seen that from him. Dame time is a thing. It's not just some meme.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. He has the innate ability that 2 or 3 guys every generation have to just take over a game and win it single-handedly. And I think people are everybody talks about Dame time, but I think people are starting to realize that when Dame's on the floor, it's always Dame time. And I think that's the attitude that Damian Lillard himself is starting to project. You and I have talked about this in the past. The difference between stars and superstars. Damian Lillard's, I don't want to say it it's corny, but it's what kind of works here. His aura on the floor right now, like the way that he carries himself on the floor and the way that other dudes around the league look at him right now, is not as a star. It's as a superstar.
Okay.
There's a certain air that he is carrying right now, a swagger, whatever you want to call it, that just emanates from him, and guys can see it. Like opponents fear it, and his teammates thrive on it. You can see the guys rally around him, and I think that's why you see a Maurice Harkless do what he did the other night. It's why I think you've seen a rejuvenated Jusuf Nurkic. It's why I think you're seeing that this better overall feel from the team is because they're just feeding off everything that Damian Lillard is projecting out there. And it's not just the scoring, it's just how he dictates the pace of play. And that's a seriously rare thing to have in a player. And that I think people need to take a step back and really appreciate not just his accolades and what he's done, but the way that he's conducting himself on the floor. This is going to sound, again, corny as hell, but like almost on an ethereal level. Like what he is doing is just nuts.
Okay, so by dictating the pace of play, can you be more specific? Like, the actual speed of the game?
The speed of the game.
Do you mean more than that?
Yeah, when and where he attacks, how he attacks. Knowing that if I'm Damian Lillard and what I see from him on the floor, I know that in the late game situation, Phoenix is going to try to send 3 or 4 guys to the boards here, to the defensive boards to secure this rebound, and nobody's going to worry about me coming in to try to grab an offensive rebound off a shot from the corner. Damian Lillard comes in out of nowhere, jumps over everyone, and packs it on every one of their souls.
Including Ed Davis.
I mean, just bunnies for days.
beautiful.
But that's knowing and dictating because he understands that nobody's worried about getting a body on Damian Lillard right now, which is kind of funny because he finished with 10 rebounds. You would think somebody would want to get a body on him since, he was rebounding like a maniac the other night. So
if Damian is playing so incredible, how come he doesn't get triple doubles?
And this is something I've thought about a lot. Like he's a guy that when he's scoring, he's scoring. When he's assisting, he's assisting. Like the games where Damian Lillard has high assist nights, he's dictating the game by his playmaking. When he has the scoring nights, he's dictating the night by his scoring. I think he gets in a groove of one or the other, and it's not and, it's always or.
And is it exaggerating to say that there are other ball handlers? Because you do have CJ who can get a pass here and there. You do have other guys who can make the passes, but that's probably not really part of it, is it?
No, I think and on those nights, like even though Dame has been phenomenal, like he's shooting 51%, in every one of these games, he's had when he gets in these grooves, he has a shot or two when you're just sitting there going, "What the hell was that?" Like the heat check of heat checks, and you're just like, you live with it though.
Right, like the whole first 3 quarters of the Phoenix game.
Yeah,
there was a lid on that bucket, man. Nobody could get it.
They were what, 3 for 26 from 3?
They were 7% for a while, and then they doubled it to 14% for a while.
I mean, Dame,
and that was well into the third.
I mean, I think he was 0 for 7 from 3, and they were but the vast majority of them were good looks. I will admit. I was out to dinner with my girlfriend. I was at the coast at Cannon Beach. I got to explain this story because some people love this. Apparently, Cannon Beach doesn't have a Blazers package at any sports bar, restaurant, or building in that city. So I brought my girlfriend allowed me to bring my laptop to dinner, the nice steak dinner that we had, and I was able to stream the Blazers game. And in between the meal being delivered, I lost track in the third quarter. So there's a piece of the game that I have not watched because I just got home a little bit ago. But again, shout out to my girlfriend
awesome.
for letting me and allowing and actually even suggesting that I bring my laptop to dinner because the people in the restaurant, there was 2 reactions. She knew it was
going to be an issue anyway.
Yeah, the reactions that I got in the restaurant were kind of funny because there were people that were like, "What the hell is he doing?" And the other people were like, "Hey, what's the score?"
Yeah,
and
you were there. You were providing a public service.
Exactly. So it was entertaining to say the least. But I wanted to hit on this on the pace of play thing real quick because I think this is important when we're talking about the idea of what Damian Lillard's been doing. He appears to be a page ahead in the playbook. Like he knows what teams want to do to him, and he's countering their counter already. Like that's he's when you talk about a player's peak, It's not just that their physical peak. It's the time when the mental aptitude and the physical abilities combine to make the peak. And I think we're seeing that right now.
And that's when they say the game slows down,
exactly.
Right?
The game slows down, and he's a step ahead while he has the ability to take advantage of that. And I think he's unlocking that right now.
Can you think of an example of a play or something that you can recall that Damian did that was a reaction to something like that? Like,
yeah,
did
absolutely.
Utah play him a certain way?
Utah and Phoenix both did the same thing. They try to trap and send him to the baseline. And Damian Lillard, when they trap too early, because with Phoenix especially, because they're a young team, even though they're long and aggressive, the timing isn't there. Like Danny Green. Danny Green's a perfect example with the Spurs. Danny Green knows how to double perfectly. He knows like when to look for whoever's doubling. You know, he waits for that guy to look away or to hesitate or to turn his head ever so slightly, so he can't make the reaction, that extra half a second that he gets to get there before the ball handler can react. Damian Lillard is seeing that early and understanding where opponents want to push him on the floor, and he isn't allowing that to happen. He's making either the early, like on a pick and roll with Nurkic, the pick and roll starts coming, and he realizes that against Utah or Phoenix, that they're looking to trap early. So he's waving Nurkic off. If you've noticed lately, he'll put his hand up like, nope. They're bringing that. So let's go ahead and do this instead. So he starts to attack.
Nurkic makes a move to come up, and Damian sees that and waves him off, says, no, we're going to do something different.
Yeah, he allows Nurkic to kind of sit up high, and then all of a sudden the big that was coming out is like, well, now I'm caught in no man's land. And Nurkic now, and this is a credit to Nurkic, and something we talked about a few weeks ago, understanding that slipping that pick and roll, Nurk understands too that he sees what Dame sees now. Oh, they're going to trap here. They're trying to get up high. Now Nurk slides a little behind, and now the defense is off balance, and now Damian Lillard has somebody one-on-one, and maybe he was looking to press, and now he's not pressing, and he's backing off a little bit, and Dame can either get downhill, pull up, or create the action off for himself. And really, option A, B, or C there has been yes, and yes, as far as like what's been successful for him.
How does he manage to get to that? You know, that one spot on the floor, the spot where he took
everywhere above the break on the left or right side.
No, there's that one spot that he took where he took that Houston shot. That is
the left
spot
wing
on the floor. And if I was an opposing team, I would just be like, do anything but do not let him get to that spot. What is it that he's doing that's getting him to that spot? Is it examples like what you were just talking about?
Yeah, it's setting the angles. It's something we talked about years ago. Dave and I
why does anybody let him get there?
Yeah, no, Dave and I talked about it, and you and I have talked about this, and it's about the defensive side of things. The one thing that I always questioned about Damian Lillard's defensive acumen and ability that always confounded me was offensively, in the pick and roll particularly, he's unbelievably good and has a natural feeling and inclination for setting angles, putting defenders into screens the right way. Second Spectrum put a stat out the other day, and the player tracking machine learning database that's now backing up a lot of what the NBA.com stats are going to be going forward. That basically every time you get caught by a screen when you're guarding Damian Lillard, he's basically the purest or best shooter in the NBA from the 3-point line. Like if you get caught or go under,
if his defender caught on the screen,
you're done.
Has the highest probability of making it.
Yep. Or his number, his shot SQ is the highest above average. So the baseline.
Because I can picture in my mind a lot of times right in that area a player from the other team in that little airplane stance, you know, where they're trying to make it through.
They're trying to turn that corner. Yep. Or
and they throw their arms up like an airplane going around a corner.
And because of what Damian's been doing, again, this comes back full circle here about getting to the free throw line. He's been so deadly at taking and making free throws lately that these guys aren't just going to go over the screen. Like normally with a shooter, you just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go over and live with the end result if he gets to that mid-range spot. Dame's getting and going downhill. Like he's getting to the free throw line. So these guys are like, nah, I can't put my big in a bad position. I've got to fight through this screen. Well, Jusuf Nurkic is out there setting big man screens. Like even if Nurk sets like the weakest screen that Nurkic can set, it's still better than 80% of the league because he's just a big dude. Like, not only that, Nurkic is getting damn good at setting those god-awful moving picks. Like, I mean, they are Andrew Bogut, Kevin Garnett masterpieces. Just mwah! And I mean, if the NBA is going to keep letting him do it, then let him do it. What drives me nuts is when he gets called for a moving screen that isn't the moving screen. It's like, come on, man. If you're going to call him for one, call him
when
for
he's done so many other nice ones.
like if you're going to call him for one, call him for the actual moving screen, not the one where he just happened to separate some dude's jaw who wasn't paying attention.
How did you think Nurkic did against Rudy Gobert on whatever night that was, on Friday?
Rudy
Gobert is a spectacular player.
Yeah, I mean,
how did you feel like Nurkic defended him or attacked him?
On both instances, you could find cases where Nurkic was both fantastic and instances where he was downright awful. But I think that's kind of like, Nurkic in a nutshell. Like, he had some plays where he just absolutely beat the crap out of Rudy Gobert. I mean, just muscled him around, got to his spots, didn't let Gobert get to where he wanted to. On offense or defense. And then there were times where he just threw the most atrocious junk I've ever seen up and let Gobert get wherever he wanted to. And I was just like, Rudy, if you or Jusuf, if you could not do that, I would be just thrilled. But I mean, his stat line was nice: 15-7, 3 blocks. Field goal percentage over the last month has been much better. I mean, you look at Gobert's...
that's good to hear.
Oh, no, his numbers have been great lately. I mean, you think about Rudy Gobert and his stat line and how he impacts a game. So here, I mean, obviously I already gave you Nurkic's, but Gobert's stat line was 15, 9, and 4. I mean, which one here is the guy that's, really impacting the game? Their stat lines are almost identical. So, I think I figured out one of the keys to Nurkic, and you
may
be onto something here.
What? Yeah. So here's my theory, and I'm like partly joking, but I think there's a kernel of truth to it. I think Nurkic plays better when he's in foul trouble, and I think they should send him out, and he should get like 3 quick fouls and just establish himself, like just come in there and get fouls. And because when he's in foul trouble, he seems to play more carefully and he seems to make better choices. And what? I don't think that's how you use that word, Dan.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that works.
I'm well aware. I'm saying he's very self-aware.
But so I was running this by Mr. Team Mom, and I was telling him that I was all hot about how Nurkic needs to come in and he needs to get 3 quick fouls, and then in the beginning of the second half he needs to come in and get 1 more, so that he's always like got that hanging over him. And Charlie was like, well, do you really just want him in there, coming in there and making fouls, or do you want him coming in there and not being afraid of making fouls? And I was like, well, that would be nice. And since the Blazers are working with a referee who can work with him to figure out, like, you've got 6 fouls. You might as well use them, and use them wisely, and use them in a way where you can establish dominance, but you're not going to be getting called for flagrants. But you can be in there telling people, I own this area, and you need to either stay out of it or know if you're coming in, you're going to get mauled. Yeah.
I mean, he got Gobert into a technical foul. Like that, what led to Gobert getting a technical was Jusuf absolutely grabbing, holding, pushing, shoving, and manhandling Gobert under the rim with no call. There was a sequence where they were, and honestly, I wouldn't call it either way. Anybody who's ever heard me rant about officials before, stuff inside.
Yeah, we're not turning this into an official's rant.
The stuff inside between 2 7-foot, like near 300-pound human beings, unless there's a severe advantage gained by one party, you just let it all go. I mean, if you really want to understand what it's like in there, just spend the game watching nothing but the interior play. Don't watch the ball at all. Watch the hand fighting, the grabbing, the pushing, the holding. These guys, they hook each other's arms every single possession. They grab each other's jerseys every single possession. They push each other in the back every single possession. You know why Ed Davis gets called every single game for pushing somebody in the back? It's because he does it every single possession. He does it every possession. He just doesn't get caught. That's the thing. Right. It's like, so, but Nurkic knows that Rudy doesn't like to get pushed around. So what does he do? He pushes him around. And I do appreciate that about Nurkic, and we've talked about that a million times. He's an irritating SOB. Like, he knows how to get under people's skin.
But he doesn't attack the rim viciously, you know? I mean, he'll push somebody around on defense, but he doesn't do it on offense. And I think come in there with making an offensive foul that's like, you know, knocking everybody out of your way because you won't let anything stand in between you and that basket.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, for Nurkic, and this is kind of something I wanted to hit on to shout him out a little bit. For the month of February, he's putting up almost 13 and 9, over 2 assists.
Oh, that's nice.
2 blocks. Here's the key: 52% from the field. That's still not fantastic, but that's not screwing him off that 44% crap that we had. Like that's more respectable. If we had 54% a year, Nurkic, I can live with that because he takes some dumb shots, and with dumb shots come low percentages. If he just ratcheted that up a little bit,
what's with the long mid-range shots he's been taking the last couple games?
He's pulling that one back out. Maybe he's feeling a little frisky.
Like, where are these coming from?
Yeah, he hit one, and he badly missed another one the other night, and I was like, yikes.
He hit one each night, at least one each night.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they were the kind where, like, if you just stepped one more step back, he would have been like right on the 3-point line.
Yeah, it's the LaMarcus special.
You're his way back.
Yeah.
Well, for Nurkic, you know that he's like a real puzzle to me, and you know I've had a really hard time enjoying watching him play because
he's an onion with many different layers, Terry.
Up. Right, exactly. Well, and so I've tried to kind of figure out like what is engaged Nurk? What does engaged Nurk look like?
So we got to slap him and we got to get him in foul trouble.
And he needs to get in foul trouble.
Okay.
No, but so like I was trying to figure out like how can you say how can you look at the stats and go, oh yeah, Nurk was engaged that night. He had a good night. So I think a couple of telling things are when he has a double-double, he's often engaged, and especially when he has a double-double and he has 4 or more personal fouls. That's kind of my
money's worth.
Okay, Nurkic came to play that night.
Yeah, that's actually a great barometer.
Or 4 or more. You know how I like a rubric, Dan.
Yeah, no, that is. I mean,
I like
honestly,
to have boxes to check off.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's a great barometer because when he gets, and here's the thing about what he's been doing lately. He's doing this in 26 minutes a night. Like he's not playing 35, 36 minutes. Like he's not playing traditional starter minutes. He's playing like 6th man average minutes. If you look around the league at the top centers, they're playing 10 more minutes a game than he is. So you're getting 13 and 9 from him on 52% from the field, and he's mixing it up inside, getting you a few blocks, getting you a few steals, pushing somebody to the ground, drawing an offensive foul, just being a jackass, but being an effective jackass. I think that's a good thing.
Right. And I've looked at how many times he had 4 or more personal fouls. So in all the games they played, there's been 22 times where he had 4 or more personal fouls, including one time where he fouled out. 6 of those were double-doubles, and 5 of those 6 were wins. So I was like, aha, that's where we go.
You're legitimately onto something here. I think you
we'll track
nailed that.
So the plan is send him in to get 3 fouls right away, and then 1 more at the beginning of the third, and that'll give us an engaged Nurk. I have one other idea to make sure everybody else is paying attention. And this one's not going to surprise you either. Early in the game, you need an end-to-end Aminu dribble drive with finishing in the basket. My
Do we get to
favorite
play the
moment
Benny
of
Hill
that,
music at the top?
it wakes everybody up. I'm just saying, it makes everybody go, what's going on here? My favorite part of that Jazz game was he had a dribble drive. He got the rebound, dribbled it all the way up, gets into the paint, kind of hesitates because he figures like someone's probably going to come and guard him, and they don't. And so he takes the Euro step and he gets the bucket.
Yeah, they're like, nah, fam, this one's on you.
But after that, everyone was like, well, okay, here we go. So I think, we need to get end-to-end Aminu dribble drive and then Nurkic in foul trouble. And I think everything is starting to fall into place for the Blazers for the rest of the season. That's my theory.
Speaking of falling into place, looks like the Timberwolves are probably going to fall out of place here. God, what an awful, awful season for stars in the Northwest Division. Jimmy Butler's got a torn meniscus. You've got Boogie Cousins with a torn Achilles.
I'm afraid to even say it out loud. I'm so afraid. I'm afraid to even talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Millsap, the Blazers have just been so damn lucky. And people come up, Aminu was nicked up and Dame was nicked up. No, listen, the Blazers have, for the second year in a row, had some unbelievably good luck with injuries. And
right, I mean, there's definitely been player time. There's definitely been player time lost to injuries, but we haven't had a catastrophic injury to a star. Yeah, and we're not going to.
And every other team in this division has had one. I had somebody challenge me on the Roberson thing for OKC. I don't think anybody who thinks that Roberson isn't entirely crucial to what the Thunder do, just go ahead and look at their record without him. He's huge. It's like the Blazers without Aminu, except times 10. Because Roberson was, before he went down, if not Defensive Player of the Year, top 2 or 3 for Defensive Player of the Year candidates. What he was doing was...
Okay, so speaking of Roberson, if people haven't listened to it before, they should check out Rob Mahoney's podcast called The Breakaway. And he did one about Andre Roberson, and it was super fascinating. It was the topic was addition by subtraction, or it was, here it is. How does an NBA team replace the irreplaceable? And it talked about his, what he brings to the team that, isn't measured in stats and everything. And I think they started making it before he got injured, and then it took a different tone after the injury happened. But anyway, it was fascinating. Look at an injured player, but I don't want to talk about injured players anymore because I don't want to jinx anybody else. I just am so worried about.
Yeah, so
worried about all the players. I mean, how much? I don't know. It kind of goes back to the good losses and bad wins, and harkens back to when the Blazers made it to the second round of the playoffs, but everybody keeps couching it in, but everybody was injured, and it's a brutal race right now going on.
It greatly improved Jimmy Butler going down greatly improved the Trailblazers' chances. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It sucks.
But is that going to take away from anything that, you've been talking about Damian Lillard's stellar play? Is that going to take anything away from what the Blazers are doing if other teams have injuries and the Blazers don't?
If they went into the playoffs against the Timberwolves.
No,
I'm saying if they went into the playoffs against the Timberwolves, I think it would be certainly a relevant topic, much like it was against the Clippers. Jimmy Butler has been one of the best players in the entire league this year, and Portland's seeing it firsthand as he has absolutely eviscerated them twice. I think that would be huge if we got to that point, but I don't think we're there yet. But I think it does improve Portland's chances of making the playoffs by about 10%, because not only does that hurt Minnesota, I think it makes things much more toxic, I would say, as far as what could happen down the stretch.
What do you mean toxic?
A team, volatile is probably the word that's probably a better choice there.
Okay.
All of a sudden, Minnesota's not on a lock to win some certain games. Maybe a team like Utah, who you wouldn't pick to win on the road, now you might. Same could be said with Denver. There's so many more things that could happen now when you're taking away a top tier talent like that it's very, very difficult to make it through.
But I guess what the uncomfortable question that I'm asking is does it take anything away from Portland's achievements when everybody,
if they played Minnesota in the first round,
showing up for the game is part of it? I mean, so say a team makes it all the way through to the conference finals because the other team had bad luck. I mean, do we just say that, well, they just got there because of luck. Does it take away? I mean, I guess if you look at a team like the Dallas Mavericks who won the championship, I mean, like, it just seems so unfair that somebody, could, achieve and win. You know what it's like? I'm going to bring the Olympics back. It's like, the guys the speed skaters who everybody crashes and they're the only ones standing. And so they cross the line and get the silver or the gold because they're the only ones left. Like, I don't know. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's like, I don't want to take away from their achievement based on other people's unfortunate. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we did there. I mean, they beat the Clippers, and the Blazers packaged that up as marketing and marketed that as, hey, they made it to the second round. They beat the Los Angeles Clippers, featuring Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan, with a little asterisk there, not actually featuring Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Mm-hmm. We definitely took that away.
Is it only the Blazers who run up against teams in those kinds of situations?
No, it's happened plenty of times, but you always have to keep that in context. Now, if they made a miraculous run where they made it, if they made it to the NBA Finals, let's put it this way. The Philadelphia 76ers, when they had Allen Iverson, they got absolutely destroyed by the Lakers, right?
Okay.
Did anybody give the 76ers credit for making it there, or did they just say, oh, they're in the Eastern Conference and they made it? Really, we saw the title game between, Portland and Los Angeles, or, a year later with the Lakers and Sacramento. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. Like, the team from the East made it, but they didn't really make it. Nobody cared because the hurdles they had to jump over, they were not as severe and they weren't as difficult as what the other teams had to. Now, granted, you still have to take advantage of those situations, but I think if you're handicapping a team in multiple rounds by missing star players, you're gonna reevaluate that, and you're gonna deduct points for success there. And it's the difference, like you said, like the difference between a bad win and a good loss.
Was the Phoenix game a good win or a bad win?
I'd put it under the bad win column, but the saving grace is you get to see what Damian Lillard's truly capable of. I didn't think the Blazers played too terribly, and I thought the Suns played better, but the talent discrepancy, the ability to execute what you would expect from Portland. Bad teams beat good teams in the NBA all the time. But I still look at that game and go, you should have had this under control much sooner. I mean, we talked about it. They shot absolutely atrocious from three. So let's say they knocked down the threes that they would have taken or they would have made regularly. The game's probably pretty well in hand. So, like I said, I put it into the bad win column because Phoenix is so bad. But I take solace in how Damian Lillard took over the game. And what that can mean for his hot hand right now kind of going forward. Does that make sense?
I would call it a not bad win. Because here's why. It's not good though,
right? It wasn't right. Even for you. I know you don't like the scale. I wouldn't call it a good win, but I would call it a not bad win because they got it together when they had to. I like that.
Okay, good. Because Damian Lillard had this fantastic finish to that game, but he wouldn't have been able to do all the things that he was doing if the other guys hadn't done their part as well.
Yeah.
And we can argue about whether or not they should have done it before, but, causing repeated turnovers. Because you know how I am when I watch a game and I'm like, okay, it's 15, just get it to 10.
It's kind of funny that you said that. Yeah. And I actually thought about that. I'm sitting there at the table at dinner, and I think there was 4:46 remaining. I want to say it was a 7 or 8 point game. And she's like, my girlfriend's sitting next to me, and she's like, do you think this game's over? And it was the weirdest feeling. I looked at her, I'm like, 99% of the time I'd say yes, but something doesn't feel like this one's over. I'm like, if they score right here, and I think it was CJ or Dame hit a pull-up mid-range jumper, tough shot, and I go, all right, 2 stops in a row, and they've got a chance. They got 2 stops in a row, and I kind of perked up in my seat, and I'm like, holy crap, they might actually do this. And then Dame got hot.
4 minutes to go, down by 7. You didn't think they had a chance. Dan, what is the matter with you? Come on.
It was the way they were playing because they were shooting so terribly at that point in time.
But that was the point where they started getting those turnovers, and that was where I was saying you got to get the stop, and then you got to get the bucket, and that's my other mantra in situations like that. Get it to 15, get it to 10, get it to 5, get the shot, and get the bucket and get the stop. Get
it
the
just
bucket
so happens
and get the stop.
that most of the time
they pulled it out, and they were able to do it.
Yeah, but see, you go with that even when there's absolutely no hope of it even happening.
You know what?
You channel that when it's, hey, just get it to 20 when they're down 29. I don't subscribe to that.
I sat through all those games in the early 90s where down by 20 and Terry Porter had the ball and they could come back. And I sat through all of those Joey Harrington Duck games where they would be down by 4 touchdowns and he in the fourth quarter would somehow manage to bring them back. And to me, those are the most exciting games. And that's what I'm watching for. I mean, I don't want them to get in a hole every game. But
well, it just so happens they're willing to do that for you, Tara.
That's what I want to happen.
Boy, do I have the franchise for you.
See, it's a perfect fit. It's a match made in heaven. So what do we have to look forward to in coming up the next week? What are going to be the
gloom, and despair?
What's the successful? Oh, then you're in your happy place.
Yes, I am. I'm actually in a very happy place because
need to do to be successful.
Not only do we have a Kings game, the Kings game is
Blazers Edge Night.
Hey, so we'll have 2,300 screaming, happy, thrilled, stoked kids who will get to enjoy a game. Sacramento, remember last time Portland played them, gave them an absolute fits.
Yeah, they got some young talent. They're not particularly organized or deep, but they have some.
They make
life
life miserable. They're really good at that. Bogdanovich is a heck of a player. Fox is starting to show some things. Willie Cauley-Stein has been a thorn in Portland's side the last couple of times they've matched up. I think it's a game that Portland has to win. I think we're getting to the point where if we're talking, if you're seriously considering talking about home court and playoff positioning and stuff like this, the whole quote-unquote must win, those are a real thing. Like, you must win against Phoenix. You must win against Sacramento.
This is a win, the one you should.
Yeah, you must win against the Lakers. You must win against the Knicks. What else do we have? You must win against the Grizzlies, and you must win against the Mavericks. Those are your must-wins to close the year. And if you're not going to have one of those... Yeah, they got some stupidly difficult games in there.
They got some tough ones coming up.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the
Timberwolves
stretch.
Which one's first, OKC or the Timberwolves?
It's Sacramento, Minnesota,
they have the Timberwolves, and then they have OKC.
And then you get the little puff piece. You get at Los Angeles, then you come back home for the Knicks. So you get Lakers-Knicks back-to-back. That's legitimately a back-to-back. So that one sucks because you get LA nightlife over a weekend and then come back home.
Not our boys. The Portland Trailblazers are going to.
They definitely don't go out.
Go to sleep early, and they're going to have juice and fresh fruit juice smoothies, and they are going to be ready to go.
I have never seen Evan
Los Angeles
Turner
Lakers
pop up on Instagram.
I want
to
ask you a question about the Timberwolves though, without Jimmy Butler. One of the things that I find so frightening about the Minnesota Timberwolves is their length. And while Jimmy Butler is tall, I don't think he's the scariest in terms of length on that team. Do you think that the loss of Jimmy Butler in the specific matchup with Portland is going to be tough for them? Were they without him last time they played?
I think he was in a suit last time. Yeah, but I mean, it's
still a tough matchup.
Yeah, for Portland, it's stupidly difficult because they've got Wiggins and Jimmy, and they can't. Portland doesn't like you. You put CJ on Wiggins or Jimmy. That's just not a matchup physically that you want to be. It's not a position you want to be in.
Well, they're not going to have Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like from that point of view, it's kind of like, so when they don't have Jimmy, you're kind of like, hey, this is like Jamal Crawford. Well, he's longer than some guys as far as like wingspan go, but he's not a very big or really fast or physical player anymore. And I don't think he's going to enjoy chasing CJ around the court for 36 minutes a night. So that's obviously a matchup that swings back in Portland's favor. But Wiggins is still a guy that, I mean, he's been a thorn in Portland's side. Karl Anthony Towns is definitely a problem.
I think we're going to have engaged Nurk.
Yeah.
He's going to go out there. He's going to give Cat a hard time. I think Cat is somebody
slap the cat around.
That Nurkic feels like he can control. I think, you know, if he comes in with the right mindset.
The problem is when
Nurkic
Cat goes
establishes
outside.
that right at the beginning.
That's the problem is when Cat goes outside. Like when Anthony Towns it sits on the perimeter and pulls Nurkic out, which they are wont to do. They will, because Taj can sit and hit that elbow jumper. He can stand outside and pull Nurkic completely out of the paint, and that's when Butler was just killing the Blazers. Wiggins is the same way. You give them that much more room to attack with, and yeah.
So how does Portland counter that? What should we look for Portland to counter that?
It's dependent on Nurkic and Stotts and how they want to cover it. They can allow the switch to happen and try to pre-switch or send help early. Stotts has shown that he's not totally against sending a double, at the elbow or in the post. Obviously, doubling on the perimeter on a tall player is difficult because they still have the passing lanes to make a play there. So. There's a lot at stake for how they want to operate or what they could possibly do. But yeah, it's the constant question that goes on between, you know, new school centers and you know, the lean, athletic, sinewy freaks, the ectomorphs and the endomorphs, I think is what it is. You know, the difference between the Nurkic's and the Karl Anthony Townses. We'll kind of see how that works out.
And OKC, I mean,
that's always a disaster piece.
OKC is going to figure out how to. I mean, because the Portland Trailblazers have just gotten under their skin for so many games.
Under Westbrook's
I'm just always afraid OKC is going to figure it out.
Like Westbrook has had some of these ridiculous nights, like some of the most obscene box score numbers that you could possibly put up, and yet the team still loses because he'll inexplicably jack up some of the worst shots you could ever possibly imagine, throw passes that make no sense, you know, have turnovers occur that just are absolutely crazy, and you're just sitting like, he's gonna melt down again, and it has happened plenty of times over the last couple games. So to see, I mean, Portland's like, 3-0 in their last 3 games. Nurkic, to me, has been the unsung hero in those games. I was talking with some OKC media folks the other day because we were kind of previewing this game for those guys. And when I look at Nurkic's numbers, I'm like, he's damn near averaging like 18 and 10 against OKC over his last 3 games, and all 3 games are wins. So
how many fouls?
I hadn't got that for you. I hadn't used your research method. So
okay,
yeah.
You can get back to me on that.
I'll have to do that.
Well, it's definitely the week is gonna end with a couple of tough games, but the Blazers Edge Night against the Sacramento Kings should be a really fun affair, and hopefully the Blazers will know that they're going to have a lot of VIPs in the audience that they need to put on a really big show for. And this is also the beginning of the Blazers. They have a lot of home games here for the rest of the
they've got
of the season.
2,
so hopefully
5,
they've gotten
9
rid of
road
whatever
games.
difficulties. Yeah, hopefully they've gotten rid of whatever difficulties they were having in December with the road game. But, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm feeling pretty positive, like things are going in. Should I not be saying this out loud? But I feel like a few key players have tapped into something that was more elusive earlier in the year, specifically Nurkic and Harkless, and that seems to be encouraging. And I think Damian Lillard has also, like you said, you know, been playing in an otherworldly fashion. So I think things are looking up for this team. I don't know. Would you admit that?
Yeah, I think they're looking better, and it's not just them. It's mostly based on Damian and then some other circumstances that they can't impact, obviously, like injuries around, specifically in the division, and guys that they're fighting against. I mean, we got all the way through the podcast, basically, and we're just now talking about Kawhi Leonard, who's still not playing and may not play for the rest of the season. So, and that's certainly going to impact San Antonio down the stretch run and every other team involved. So,
This is just a weird, wonky season, and in the end, it's all going to be moot because Golden State or Houston are going to come out of the West. So,
with regard to Kawhi Leonard, they basically haven't had him all year. So why does everybody think they're suddenly gonna just fall apart now? I mean, it's San Antonio.
I don't think they're going to fall apart, but I think they're not bulletproof. And trust me, here's how wild this. I mean, if you want to talk about hot takes, I would rather play the Houston Rockets in the playoffs than the San Antonio Spurs, because I trust Greg Popovich more than I trust James Harden or Chris Paul in the playoffs. So yeah,
that's an interesting one. I don't know where I fall on that one.
As great as Harden and Chris Paul are, when I think of some of the biggest playoff choke jobs I've seen in my entire life, James Harden takes up like 3 of the first 5.
Yeah, including the All-Star game.
Like if there's a big moment for him to fall apart in, he will gladly oblige.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we can't take anything for granted. And given how close the Western Conference is right now, I don't want to take
misstep and things
can
fall apart.
Right. So, I mean, I'm still on the I hope they make it into the playoffs.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit.
It's a razor thin edge.
Would you say that they're on the Blazers' edge?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where that came from. You just getting that now?
Hey-o! Oh, God, it's been a long day.
I know. We gotta wrap it up because we got a busy couple of days coming. We got some Blazers Edge business coming up the next couple of days. It's going to be exciting.
I know. I'm going to see all of you for like multiple days in a row.
I know. We're going to see each other face to face and try not to drive everybody crazy. Why don't you take us out of here, Dan?
All right.
Great to talk to you tonight.
Yes, as you two as always. Tara, let everybody know where they can find you.
I am at TCB Biggs on Twitter, and that's mainly where I hang out, especially during the games. So please find me, follow, and join in all the fun.
Yeah, excellent stuff as always. She's very uplifting during the games, where me, I'm occupying a place in everyone's heart that Mike Rice has left. You can find me.
Pretty big.
Yes, exactly. I'm the angry drunk uncle, apparently, at times. I am on Twitter at DMeringue, on Instagram at DMeringue, and also I am Danny Meringue, my alter ego, on Blazers Outsiders on NBC Sports Northwest at 7 p.m. on non-Blazers game nights, where, thank God, we have basketball again, because if I had to do one more random evergreen episode with no new content, I was going to lose my mind. It's so difficult to do. Hey, let's make up something to talk about because the Blazers aren't playing for 2 weeks.
There was a lot of talk about hair and fashion.
There was so much hair and fashion and fashionable hair. We talked about Brandon Rush 2 nights in a row. Who knew that was possible? Anyways.
We didn't even touch on him.
Yes,
well, next time maybe.
Exactly. So that's how much stuff we have to talk about now, which is great, and I love it. For Tara, I'm Dan, also Danny. Make sure you find us on iTunes, rate, subscribe, leave a review. All that stuff is huge. Subscribe, unsubscribe, and do it all again. Are you talking about
yourself in the royal second person now? Find us? You and Danny?
I was talking about you and I. Danny's a different person.
It sounded like find me and Danny.
No. Danny, I'm talking about you and I, Tara. Danny is on his own thing. Danny's over at NBC. But like, subscribe, find us on Almighty Baller Podcast Network, on iTunes, on Stitcher, everywhere else for your podcast needs. For Team Mom, Tara, Bo, and Biggs, I am Dan Meringue, and we'll catch you next time.